12 minutes out of Tokyo, at 24,000 feet, a Boeing 747 lost its tail. The vertical stabilizer tumbled into Sagami Bay in a single piece. 524 people were on board, and for the next 32 minutes, the crew flew an airplane that physically could not be flown. The entire disaster traces back to one afternoon in a Boeing repair hangar 7 years earlier, and to a single splice plate that nobody questioned until it was too late. On August 12, 1985, Japan Airlines Flight 123 came apart in mid-air, not because of weather, not because of a bomb, but because of a repair job completed in 1978. The wreckage sits inside the textbook of every aerospace engineer alive today, because the chain of failure that brought it down can be traced back to a single fastener-level decision. To understand how, you need to know the part of a 747 almost no passenger ever thinks about: the wall at the back of the cabin. It is called the AFT pressure bulkhead. At cruise altitude, the air outside a 747 thins to roughly 2.5 pounds per square inch. The air inside the cabin, the air that keeps you conscious and breathing, is held at around 11.5 pounds per square inch. That difference, about 9 pounds per square inch, has to be contained by the airframe itself. The fuselage is a long aluminum pressure vessel, sealed at the nose by the cockpit structure and at the back by a single curved wall. That wall is shaped like a shallow dome, and the shape matters. A flat panel under 9 pounds per square inch of pressure would have to resist all that load in bending. It would balloon outward and tear from its edges. A dome does not do that. The curvature redirects pressure into tension along the surface of the bulkhead itself, the way an arch dam works. The load does not fight the panel, it runs through it, out to the perimeter, where the bulkhead meets the fuselage frame. That perimeter is the critical joint. It is where the pressure load gets handed off from the dome to the rest of the airframe. And on a 747 it runs in a complete circle, roughly 4 meters across. The handoff is made by rows of rivets, small aluminum fasteners passing through overlapping sheets of metal called splice plates. Each rivet carries a calculated share of the load. The whole joint is engineered around one number: how many rows of rivets it takes to safely move pressure out of the dome and into the fuselage. For the 747's aft pressure bulkhead, that number is 2. 7 years before the crash, on June 2, 1978, that exact same aircraft, registration JA8119, was landing at Osaka's Itami Airport when the pilot flared too aggressively on touchdown. The tail struck the runway. The strike was hard enough to crack the aft pressure bulkhead and put the airplane out of service. Boeing flew a repair team from Seattle to fix it. The official repair procedure was specific: the lower half of the damaged bulkhead would be replaced. A single continuous splice plate would then bridge the seam between the new lower half and the original upper half, and the two halves would be joined together through that plate with 2 rows of rivets. 2 rows. Every aerospace fastener joint is designed around redundant load paths, and on this bulkhead, both rows of rivets were structurally required to safely carry pressurization load into the upper dome. The repair team ran into a problem. The replacement section did not mate cleanly to the upper half. The gap was too wide for the splice plate they had, so they improvised. Instead of fabricating a correct plate, they cut the splice plate in 2 and installed the pieces with a filler strip covering the gap between them. Sealant on both sides made the finished joint look correct from the outside. Inspection passed. The airplane went back into service. But inside the joint, the geometry had changed. Across roughly 17% of the splice, about 2 of the joint's 10 bays, only 1 row of rivets now actually passed through the splice plate into the upper dome. The second row of rivets was there. It just was not connecting anything load-bearing. It was passing through the filler. The math of riveted joints is not subtle about what this does. When two rows share a tensile load equally, each row carries 50% of the force. Remove one row, and the remaining row carries all of it. The geometry of the joint also concentrates stress around those rivet holes far more sharply than the design intended. According to Japan's Aircraft Accident Investigation Commission, the effective strength loss came out to 70%. That number alone did not kill the airplane. What killed it was time. Every flight pressurized the cabin and depressurized it again, a full load cycle on every climb, a full unload on every descent. Each cycle drove a fatigue crack invisibly forward from the edge of a rivet hole, no faster than a fraction of a millimeter, but always in the same direction. Over the next 12,318 flights, those cracks did exactly what fatigue cracks always do. They grew until they met. August 12, 1985. Obon Week, one of the busiest travel periods in Japan. Japan Airlines Flight 123 pushed back from Haneda at 6:04 in the evening, bound for Osaka. A 45-minute hop most of the crew had flown hundreds of times. The aircraft was the same 747 SR repaired in 1978, registration JA8119, by then 12,318 flights older than the day Boeing's team had walked away from the bulkhead. There were 524 people on board. The flight climbed normally through eastern Tokyo airspace and turned south over Sagami Bay. At 6:24 in the evening, 12 minutes after takeoff, the aircraft was passing through 23,900 feet at 300 knots. Inside the aft pressure bulkhead, the fatigue cracks that had been propagating for 7 years finally connected. The remaining ligaments of aluminum between rivet holes failed in sequence, and within milliseconds, the joint unzipped. What followed was not an explosion. It was a pressure failure, and pressure failures obey simple physics. The cabin was holding 9 pounds per square inch above ambient. The unpressurized tail cone behind the bulkhead was holding nothing. When the bulkhead ruptured, the entire pressurized volume of the cabin dumped through the new opening into the tail, and it did so at the speed of sound. That pressure pulse acted on the inside of the aft fuselage like a shaped charge fired backward. The skin and structure between the bulkhead and the vertical stabilizer were never engineered to hold cabin pressure. They were engineered to hold air drag. Pressure did the damage. They didn't hold. A large portion of the vertical stabilizer departed the aircraft in a single piece. So did the tail cone, taking with it the auxiliary power unit. From the ground, witnesses watched a 15-foot section of tail tumble into Sagami Bay. The crew didn't know what had happened. A loud bang, a master caution light, the captain calling for a return to Haneda. They knew they had lost the tail. What they did not yet know is that the rupture had passed straight through the most critical bundle of plumbing on the airplane, every hydraulic line that controlled flight. A 747 has 4 independent hydraulic systems, specifically so that no single event can take them all offline. This single event took them all offline. Within 90 seconds of the bang, Flight 123 had no working ailerons, no elevators, no rudder, no flaps. The crew had only what thrust on the 4 engines could give them. Hydraulic failure had left them with engines and nothing else. What followed was 32 minutes of impossible airmanship. Captain Masami Takahama, First Officer Yutaka Sasaki, and Flight Engineer Hiroshi Fukuda kept the airplane airborne using only differential engine power, pulling back on the throttles to descend, pushing forward to climb, adding asymmetric thrust to turn. The cockpit voice recorder caught the crew calling out for power, for flaps, for anything that might still respond. In the cabin behind them, several passengers wrote farewell notes during the descent. One of them, a businessman named Hirotsugu Kawaguchi, scrawled a goodbye to his wife and children on the back of an air sickness bag. They were still in the sky when he wrote it. The aircraft entered an unstable oscillation that pilots call a pugoid, climbing and falling in slow waves through the air above the mountains north of Tokyo. The crew managed to keep it flying long enough to make it the textbook case study it became. They did not manage to land it. At 6:56 in the evening, Flight 123 struck the ridge of Mount Takamagahara at 346 knots. Of the 524 people on board, 520 died. 4 survived. The investigation took 2 years. When it finished, it traced the entire chain back through a 1978 work order and into a single splice plate. The loss of the tail, the loss of all 4 hydraulic systems, the loss of the airplane. Boeing publicly acknowledged the faulty repair within weeks of the crash. The aviation industry rewrote its rules around repair documentation, independent verification of structural work, and inspection of pressure boundaries for fatigue cracking beneath rivet heads. Every modern wide-body airliner is now designed with hydraulic routing that physically separates redundant systems so that no single rupture can sever them all. 520 people are dead because of a row of rivets that was not there. The math had been correct in the engineering drawings. The math was correct in the safety margin. The math was only ever wrong in one place, on one afternoon in 1978, in one splice plate that nobody questioned until it was too late. One rivet at a time. That is how airplanes fall out of the sky.